Hi, everybody. This is 1,180 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And we know that he didn't vanish. We know that he was code redded. So, what does that mean, code red? That means an internal decision to harm one of their own, to retaliate against him for being a whistleblower, to intentionally harm him, intentional malice. And that seems to be the words of this week, I think, intentional malice. And we're finding that all over this case with the CID, intentional malice, with the media, intentional malice, with Park University, intentional malice, with the director of emergency services and chief of of security on Fort Bliss, intentional malice, the VA. Let me think. It just depends if what is going on over what is being reported over at the VA. It seems like some people working at the VA have intentional malice in this case. And so let's look at Facebook. And I think those words are going to be really important. See if I can get on. See if everything is working. Okay, it sounds like the sound is good. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much, and prayers for justice for Richard. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the prayers every day. And, it's starting to, because we're getting institutional support, it seems emotionally, I think it gets a little tougher because everything that we have suspected, things that we were answering that, it seems to be true and worse. And now we're getting confirmation that there is indeed an FBI informant in Team Fire Richard Halliday. We received confirmation that in 3905 Bliss Avenue, indeed, it just doesn't belong to Tanya Katzen. There's a long history with Rochas, Ortega, and even Soto with the Katzens. They all are family. And there's another address, 3705 Bliss Avenue, that is also involved in this case. And then, of course, we can't forget about the Van Buren homes. There's 3400 Van Buren, and the other number I have not released yet, that is in conjunction or involved, is connected with Richard's case. And to get the confirmations on that, and a lot is where the events happened, along with the other suspected areas, because there was so much retaliation going on. We're trying to put together the timetable of events, what happened where, and they had to hide evidence. They had to tamper with evidence, including Richard's remains. They had to have a place where they dismembered him. They had to put those in some kind of containers. They had to transport them. And they had to have support um, to do all this, right? And we even have some operation names that has been given to us, which is, yeah. Um, so the name of this live stream is the CID betrayal. The CID, is it the CID botched investigation? This, I think, betrayal is the right adjective, because, or the right, they betrayed us. That's a good verb. um, it hurts so much. I can't even tell you, to get all these verifications, that the hours that I spoke to some of these people, um, and I'm referring to Marlon Soto, um, and how the meetings where he sat there, and the FBI, and just the betrayal is, it just, I think emotionally you have to be so strong, um, because I just have never been around people this evil in my life, and they're absolutely so evil and willing to do so much harm. When you're covering up a code red, if and you're not even telling the family the truth of anything, anything, from whistleblowing to who Boleyn is, who Danae is, and they're just stringing you along, and not just stringing you along, but they're manipulating you, um, and trying to divert your attention. That's why we need to bring in Dolores Montanez again. We need to let her say uh, what she reported, because I think that there's others that I really wish would um, be willing to publicly talk about this case. But it makes a lot of people afraid because of the betrayal. And it would be very interesting to get Dolores in there, because her story is that Richard was taken to Mexico through the and it's not her story. This is what she said she heard. And it is third party. It is third party, and but that he was taken over to Mexico through the Santa Teresa port of entry. That he was taken into Juarez and just let go there, and um, somebody shot him and killed him, and a person was paid, uh, someone that's a very desperate for money, a street person, and I don't know if he was a drug addict or whatever, was paid to dispose of Richard's remains, and disposed at around kilometer 2930. And I don't know if this is another distraction, because we have very other information coming in about well, I'll show you this area, and I think this is important. Let me see if I can put it in. Yeah, this area. So this area, this is the Monte Warrior Zone. This is the Biggs Airfield. This is the Fort Bliss Rod and Gun Club. So here's the Biggs Airfield. And there's all kinds of locations here, y'all. you know, and it really seems to be in this place here. And I don't know if this is a distraction. Um, the sources uh, giving us this area, and then we have um, Delaris saying it's in Juarez, and we have the autopsy report for you know partial remains um, for Juarez, along with uh, a a training area, which this would be the training area, very close to the mock Afghanistan village, and then of course Red Rio Range, um, which is another area of interest. And we have this plane. Why would this plane be involved? Uh, you know, it just um, and the information coming in about the tools used, because you can't just dismember somebody. It's very, very difficult, and so you have to have somebody that is skilled in doing that. So who would they bring in? How would they do it? Um, it's just the most awful, awful thing to have to go through. And the CID should be doing it. The FBI should be doing this, and they should be on the up and up. But they've betrayed us, so we have become the investigators. And as the monies come in, I went over the monies yesterday, as they come in and verify how much money has been spent by the taxpayers. You understand? These evil people, the CID, they're paid for by the taxpayers, okay? And then they betray us, and um, they are committing crimes. They are absolutely using the funds that we have entrusted to them, um, and committing crimes, because this cover up is a huge crime, and that means that they had something to lose. So what were they making money off of? The pimping? Was it the drugs? Was it the arms sales and ammunition sales? Through the smuggling? Was it the child pornography, which is child torture? What's going on with Marlon Soto? What is his what you know is he being held accountable for that? It would be very, very interesting, because I know that he lost his command, and I know Tavita Nusa lost his badge and has been removed from the military. So this, and I'm glad to hear that the special agents have come down to Fort Bliss to interview the soldier, the whistleblower soldier that is active duty at Fort Bliss that requested a congressional inquiry. That, uh, but there's a lot of questions yet to be answered. So, and it didn't have to be that way. And so this institutional support is very welcomed. And hopefully they'll take some of this information that we have gotten about 3705 Bliss Avenue, 3905 Bliss Avenue, the Van Buren homes, and these GPS coordinates, and give us, hard answers back, like the FBI, like the criminal database. That was huge because we absolutely know that Richard wasn't a criminal, yet they were making him into a criminal. But you see the emotions there. Um, Here we are at 3 years, and we're getting the federal criminal database um, saying to us, there's nothing for Rich. So I'm going to explain why that's so important because of July 9th. July 9th, super important because they only had one thing that they could use to make an excuse for all of the retaliation that they lodged upon him, and that was that DUI. And that on July 9th, 2020, that DUI, they had made an agreement and let his chain of command know that it was going to be dismissed, that there was nothing there. And I think they panicked. And that's why anytime between July 9th and now is very, very important information. Everything that happened. Because were they going to give back the GOMAR? Were they going to rescind the GOMAR and the chaptering, the permanency, the ranks of the field grade Article 15? I mean, this is really big, and I have to repeat it lots and lots of times because people need to know about this July 9th date, and I need to make a post about it. It's just that important because then the chain of command had even more motive to carry out the code red escalation. It wasn't enough for them to just do what they did to him because of the whistleblowing. It was, they just, when you went into the meetings, they kept repeating, we take underage drinking seriously. So you knew that that was their basis, and they got really energetic when I said, no, this DUI is not punitive. And they gave me a whole packet, how it is punitive. And they even told us, which is intentional malice. I believe it's intentional malice. That Richard, if he would have went court-martial, could have gotten 6 years in prison for what he did, which he didn't do anything, and they knew that at the time. They knew that at the time of the meeting, which was on what was it? The 9th. Let's see. Yep, the 9th. The 9th of November of 2020. They knew at that time that, and because it was already dismissed, that the plan for dismissal, the agreement for the dismissal of the DUI happened on July 9th. So how many months is that? August, September, October, November. 4 months. 4 months. They absolutely knew. And yet on November 9th, they were telling us that he could have gotten 6 years in prison. Yeah. They didn't tell us that the agreement was made for it to be dismissed. So, and they didn't dismiss it until 2021. They had to, or formally, they had to prolong it. How much taxpayers' money did that cost? I just asking. So the more institutional support that we get, it's awesome. It's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing because we're getting accountability. But Team Farm Richard Halliday, it gets a little emotional, because you realize how the levels they went to conduct this evil. And then you think, oh my gosh, how are we going to get the accountability? Because the level of evil is so bad that the accountability is the lethal injection, right? I don't see any other accountability on this. I mean, that is the level of evil. When you are participating in the dismemberment of a whistleblower soldier, when when you are hiding or destroying surveillance footage to cover up the dismemberment of a retaliated whistleblower active duty soldier, and was he in uniform? I think that is absolutely lethal injection. When you have participated in any way, and I'm talking about Boleyn here, I'm talking about Danae here, I'm talking about Jay Pollan. If you've participated in any way on this cover-up, it's so serious, because if they do it to one, you know, okay, this is horrible to a civilian, absolutely horrible to, but the punishments go up when you do it to a law enforcement officer, when you do it to an active duty soldier, when you do it to like, let's say a high politician, and they know it. They know it, that position has so many people attached to it, that when you commit a crime against that, you're committing a crime against a people's. And in Richard's case, when you are committing a crime against an active duty service member, right, a soldier, then you are committing a crime against the United States of America. And, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of land. And if they are going to, if the CID, if the internal law enforcement officers are going to get away with covering this up, with botching this investigation on purpose, with participating, because they participated in it, Tavita Nusa participated in what happened to Richard. The whole, he even admitted, we have a witness that he admitted to bodily harm done to Richard. Okay. So that's how serious this is. And I want to also clarify a little bit about Richard, about his adoption, about his languages, because there were questions. And, Richard was born in Poland. He was adopted in Poland at the age of 5.5. We brought him on the 15th of January to Heidelberg, Germany. That's where my husband was stationed. That's where we lived. And praise God, we lived there a long time because of his different assignments there. And so, beautiful place. My husband has relatives in Ireland. We went to go visit. We loved it. Absolutely love Ireland. We bought a derelict cottage, very derelict cottage, and we worked hard to make it into a home. We made it into like a little paradise, beautiful place. So Richard grew up going back and forth from Ireland to Germany. When it was time to retire, I got very, very sick, and we never fully retired um, in Ireland because 2008 happened. So once I got better, 2008 happened. Rob had to rush around when I got sick in 2006 and find a job, just a regular job in Germany. And so when it was time to go and live in Ireland full time, the whole country fell apart economically. And that's why um, in our homeschooling, we studied all of that because we saw what was happening into the Ireland that we were living in most of the year, and going back to Germany, back and forth, quite a bit. So yeah, economics became very important in that. Germany didn't go through what Ireland went through, so to see the differences, it was you learned a lot. And of course, our children will never forget that. And Richard did learn how to speak German, and he uh, went to, he loved to travel, you know. He really did. He loved to travel. He learned the Irish drawl or accent, right? Um, and he also went to Korea and did the Korean language school, and of course, learned some Korean because of his brother-in-law. So that's why he even joined the army from Korea. So I think I needed to repeat that because there has been some questions, and I think that is important for people to understand that Richard was homeschooled, that his experiences were very, very different from a typical American because he didn't have that high school. He didn't have the fast car. He didn't have that Mercedes. He didn't have that Mercedes C-Class and played football. Matter of fact, they really didn't know American football. And, that's really saying something when, your father went to Florida State University, in Florida. It's all about football. And, here I went to school in Temple, Texas, and it's like turn off the light, Temple. We're all going to the football game. And I didn't miss a football game in 4 years when I was in high school. Um, so football was a big part of our life. And here we're living in Europe, and it's football. What's football? They have rugby, they have soccer, um, they have other sports, and I'm trying to figure out all the bowling. The bowling is different than American bowling. Of course, Ireland has a lot with the horses. Of course, Sunland Park has a lot too, but just different culture. He was privileged to get to know. And so for the American culture, like baseball and football and that, we would do the games. Um, I tried to teach them the different games. But anyway, so to come to the United States, to come to Texas, was, very different for him. Was very different. And those that were raised in another country totally understand what I'm saying. The being in the military, for some reason, the leaders of our country have allowed our culture to descend. Um, when you watch, I don't watch so much TV, but when you do watch it, just the language has gotten uglier and uglier and violent. Like they used to talk. Even these old period dramas, they allow them to have this ugly language. And um, if it was that way or not, or it's to me, being going into the army is kind of like that. It's You have 44 four-star generals and admirals, and you have all this ugliness and crime and failed program after failed program. In World War II, uh, we had victory in the war, right? And we only had 7 four-star generals, right? And we had 10 times the amount of service members. Now we have just 1/10 of the amount of service members. We have 44 four-star generals and admirals. And Richard comes aspiring to the United States, and he lands in this culture that is child pornography, drugs, weapon smuggling, ammunition smuggling, foul, just violent language, and that goes along with it. A lot of PTSD, because how can you even live in all of that with and not get PTSD? It's like so depressing, to have that kind of energy around you all the time. And then also all the rapes and the sexual harassment and the sex cults, and then the political pressures of 2019, was the political division, and our 44 four-star generals and admirals handled it very badly. They all need to be stripped, to me, of their uniforms and their stars. They've handled it so bad, and that's why our recruitment is so low. And the only reason I can find why they fomented this kind of chaos in our military is to do it on purpose. And to me, that is intentional malice. Intentional malice, what they have done. And it is really, you can call it treason, right? You could call it treason. And so I don't see any other accountability than for those lethal injections. I really don't. Because the amount of people that got hurt and the amount of damage that they have done. And for Richard, I don't care if he's, he wasn't as perfect as you make him out to be, That's what the general told me. I'm like, am I making him out to be perfect? I am defending my son in the most vile, vulgar narrative that you are trying to convince me of my son. And I'm like, are you insane? Have you been wearing that COVID mask too long that you can't think right? You don't get oxygen to your brain. And because we challenge their narrative, right? Because I don't care if he liked him or not. I don't care if Richard didn't run as fast or whatever. I don't care. They do not carry out a code red on a whistleblower. And I didn't even know this at the time, but I knew they did something stinky. Okay? Because what they were saying was so crazy. My son did not go to Bassett Elementary School. I went to Bassett. Or is that a middle school, because I went to 8th grade there. Bassett. And I think it was called elementary school when I went. I don't think we called it middle school, at the time. But anyway, so I went to Bassett. I understand El Paso far more than he did. I went to Bassett. I went to MacArthur's elementary school. I went to elementary school on Fort Bliss. I went to school in Texas. I went to high school in Temple. So I understood. I understood the social atmosphere of football and um, just I guess the border um, dynamics, the military dynamics, but Richard didn't. And we have so much leadership. It is so high. And there's no excuse that they didn't read his records, that they didn't know where he came from. I mean, that's why I say he was Distinguished Honor Graduate, because he was announced Distinguished Honor Graduate Richard Halliday from Longford, Ireland. Really? You're from Longford, Ireland? And you're a Distinguished Honor Graduate in the United States Army Basic Training. Oh, tell me more about yourself. Where did you come from? I mean, if you're a leader like Captain Park and you're getting a Distinguished Honor Graduate in your unit, you pay attention a little bit. I think you should pay attention to all your soldiers, of course, all your your unit, right? Even the families. That was why they had to bring forth Operation People First, because they had failed leadership that fomented the forgetting of these uh, West Pointers to even consider the soldiers as human beings and their families as human beings, and to create esprit de corps in the unit, right? And so here comes General McConville with General Mealy or General Garrett and say, oh, y'all, don't forget that these are humans, right? Don't forget that they have families. Don't forget that they come from somewhere and have experiences and talents. You need to get to know them. So Operation People First, so we're going to take a whole week out. Do you remember that? And Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe was like, we just did Operation People First. We took a whole week off, and that's because of you. I think that's what he said to me. That's because of you, people like you, something like this. And I'm like, no, 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 no. That's because you have so many suicides. That's because you have so many failed programs, like the rapes and the sexual harassment and the violent crimes and the weapons in the barracks and the weapons being smuggled, because you have a problem with human trafficking, and because you have trouble with child pornography and the drug use, and the barracks being the marketplace for illegal drug sales and use, right? That's why, if your numbers are going down, the word is getting out. I can't tell you how many people have told me that their son and daughter joined, and then they have PTSD now. They had to get out because they started having seizures. I've never heard of that before until this case, that they were getting out because they were having seizures, and they've never had seizures before. So this is why they had to, cover up their dirty deeds, their intentional malice with Operation People First, because they didn't do anything to change it, right? They even laughed at Operation People First. They even laughed behind the back. They didn't even check into it. Nothing changed. So it was just a media cover-up, right? A psyop, a psychological operation that they could give to the media, who is, acting for them, not, holding them accountable, but acting for them. And so, that's why we just put in these letters of intentional malice about Angela Kocherga. Um, absolutely. She committed that. Absolutely. To see the media that is a publicly funded media to act the way they have and are is absolutely intentional malice. There's no other excuse for it. There's no other um, motive but for it to be a political intentional malice. And so, it didn't matter how they felt about Richard. They have a duty to mentor him, to care for him, to keep him safe in the barracks, right? And for them to carry out a code red and back that up. And absolutely, we know that at least it went as high as Clem Coward, because Clem Coward participated in the code red. He needs to be recalled. He needs to be stripped. That is, and the only solution I see in this, as far as accountability, is the lethal injection. When you have a 2-star general not liking a whistleblower, that means he's up to no good. That means either he is participating in the drug trafficking or the weapon smuggling or the human trafficking or the sex cults or the child pornography. Somewhere he's been compromised. Okay? And this is a 2-star general. And then to protect your liability, right? To protect your crimes, then you code red a soldier. This is not a civilian world crime. This is a 2-star general that has an obligation to every soldier that he commands. And he is participating in a code red. And absolutely we know that he did, because he gave that Gomar. Not only did he give that Gomar to Richard in an open case, that was an open case. That means he judged Richard guilty before there was any verdict. So he judged him guilty and gave him a permanent Gomar, which is, just ruins you, right? Just ruins you. And started chaptering him out. And I'm sure, we can't get that chaptering. It's been cleansed. It's been cleansed from his file. Why? Because we want to know if they were going to give him a dishonorable discharge, because then they were really out to hurt him. And then on July 9th, it blew up in their face. It blew up in their face because Richard had done nothing wrong. Nothing. Zero. I'm so proud of him for that. He didn't assault anybody. He didn't hit back on a senior officer. And I bet you he was frustrated. I know he was frustrated. He told me he was frustrated. He said, they're so bad. They are so bad. And I have to stay in my room, Mom, because I'll get in trouble. I understand that now. I didn't understand that then, except for like the COVID. The COVID confused everything. But it had nothing to do with the COVID. It had everything to do with them being after him. And that's not me talking. That is actual documents, hard evidence that they were after him. And that's why that July 9th, 2020 is so important, because it blew up in their face the foundation of all their retaliation fell out from under their feet, and they had nothing. They had nothing, even in the field grade Article 15, because he was given that for patterns of misconduct, right? And all of a sudden, he had no misconduct, nothing. And even David Park, his captain, they were investigating. His letter proves that they were investigating Richard, trying to find a crime. Why? He didn't mention he was a whistleblower. Why didn't they investigate the people he was whistleblowing? Did they? Because we also have information that people were arrested in July. So if they were being arrested, and they had even more motive against him if they were sour about him trying to clean up the military, because you have a West Pointer that wants to keep it dirty, right? You have a 2-star general that wants to keep it dirty. You have General Garrett that wants to keep it dirty. You have General McConville that wanted to keep it dirty. You have Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe that wanted to keep it dirty, and they participated in wanting to keep it dirty, to keep it criminal. They committed crimes against humanity, and they wanted to keep it dirty. They didn't want any accountability. They didn't want any oversight. They didn't want a fighting force that was, you always are going to have some problems, right? But they didn't want to have a just fighting force. They didn't want to have esprit de corps. And now we have a military that is being asked to do things that, I think that Senator Graham needs to go do himself. Because he betrayed us too with intentional malice. Okay? I want to make that very clear, that Senator Graham, in our case, also participated in the intentional malice. And so did Representative William Timmons. You don't hear his name too much because he, it's like, why is he even there? Why isn't he even there? He can't stump. They can't stump for a code-redded United States of America, son of this republic soldier. They can't stump for a soldier, but they sure can stump for war. They can stump for war. It is yeah. So the good news is, and I might seem a little emotional in the next week, I guess, because so much is coming out. We're expecting so much to come out. But that doesn't mean that I'm not really grateful for the institutional support. I am. But the institutional support, the verifications that are coming in, are so sad. And it's all about betrayal. It's all about being played, being lied to, using our taxpayers' money that we've entrusted to our institutions, and using them badly and using them against us. So, and how do you, so here you're getting the institutional support that from people that are sick of it, and they're finally getting the whole story about Richard instead of the fake narrative that they were fed. That's what we've overcome. They were given fake narratives, and now they're realizing, oh my gosh, we were lied to. So how are we going to admit that it has taken so long, but that we were lied to? Well, you have to hold those accountable, those that lied accountable. And that was, of course, Marlon Soto. That was, of course, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. That was, of course, Major General Clem Coward. That was, of course, Command Sergeant Major Jerry Jakovitz. That was, of course, First Sergeant Jay Pollan. That was, of course, Captain Park, right? So many that are culpable have been silent through this whole thing, like Lieutenant Colonel Michael Roddick. His name doesn't come up because he's been very silent. I don't know what they did to him, if he's out. So, but they need to bring him back in, and they need to go through a court-martial. Because when you pull a field grade Article 15 for no reason, what is he up to? What is he up to that he did that to Richard with maximum punishment and then added punishment to it with the full battle gear for 45 days during extra duty, with wearing a mask on top of that because of COVID? I mean, this is really evil. The level of evil. There's no other, oh, let's send him to prison. No, we have a whole military that is expected by the likes of Senator Graham and Representative William Timmons to, go at any moment in these humongous wars. Oh, because it's, we have to keep the economy going here when it comes to our war economy, right? Our war economy, our military-industrial complex with all of our contracts and everything. They want to keep it going. People's jobs, whatever. They don't want to do the work to reset our economy to a vibrant, productive economy, building things here in this country. They don't want to do that. We can't even get our infrastructure done, and we're $33 trillion in debt. We can't even. Was going to church this morning, and we can't even see the lines on our roads. It's like, what's going on? Where is the infrastructure? Why are they sucking us all the wealth out for these wars? Who's getting the wealth? Because, they say it's for our own good. Well, I don't see the good. I don't see the good. Not from 44 four-star generals and admirals. I mean, why do we need so many billets? We need to trim them down. They have nothing to do except for participate in this criminal activity and cover it up. Because with that many, we should have the finest, most disciplined. And there should be oversight with this military, because our freedom of speech, all of the destruction in our country, what's going on at the border, none of this would be possible if we had a real military. A real military. And I know that might offend a lot of people that are in active duty today. And, so this is my opinion. I'm allowed to have an opinion. And it's backed up by a CID that was controlled by the CID of Fort Cavazos, Fort Hood, um, that even botched Austin Hawks case. Okay, they even botched Austin Hawks case. They botched Vanessa Guillen's case. They botched Caleb Smithers' case. They botched Enrique Roman Martinez's case. They botched these cases. This is a systemic problem. And then here you have Richard Halliday there at Fort Bliss wanting to be in law enforcement. And then the law enforcement community there, sorry, they're up to no good. They're up to no good. The DES up to no good. The CID up to no good. The CID manipulating the MPs up to no good. Sheriffs up to no good. The sheriffs in Sarasota up to no good. The El Paso Police Department, whoever was in contact with this case, up to no good. Because we should have absolutely gotten our open records request answered much, much sooner than what we're getting them now. And, so I know I have to take a deep breath. Yeah, I'm going to answer your questions. I know I have to. Do you think if they botch the investigation it makes them less culpable? No. No. They are more culpable. They are absolutely involved. That CID office is absolutely involved. Do not forget that Richard was a CID intern. Okay? If he was not a CID intern, Park University would be all over this. Park University is culpable. The media is culpable. This is really huge. Silence is consent. We have asked for clarity. And we asked for clarity a long time ago with Belen and Danae. And we knew, because we have hard evidence that they were related. And the two people that the PI decided to interview was Belen and Danae. He spent so much time with Marlon Soto. Marlon Soto, absolutely. I don't see any way around what he did. He needs to be held accountable to the highest degree. And, maybe I'm overreaching. I don't know. But I don't see any other way around it. They were absolutely involved in criminal activities. And Richard was calling them out. And they participated in the code red of an active duty soldier, a young son of this republic that volunteered. He volunteered to serve. And they're taking what's entrusted to them. They're taking their duty, their oath. They're breaking their oath. They're thwarting their duty to protect the Constitution. They're everything in the UCMJ. They're just throwing it away. Everything that we have paid for to make it a working army, they ignored and used against us. And how in the world are we going to have a trustworthy military that's a volunteer military? See, they're going to start conscripting and they're going to conscript anybody, right? They're going to find a way to legalize all of these migrants, these millions of migrants that came in, women and men, and we will be one chaotic military because the culture has allowed for these rapes, for this sex cult, for the drug use, for the bullying, for the retaliation, for, it has allowed for it, it has covered up for it. That's not going to end. You think they'll get, a million migrants in and they'll be like, okay, now we'll be esprit de corps. Now we'll do the right thing. I don't think so. These people will suffer. They will suffer tremendously. I think it's so treasonous what they've done. I think it's intentional malice. And they've really hurt El Paso. They've absolutely hurt Juarez. Absolutely. And, to do this to an active duty soldier, they dismembered him, y'all. They organized the dismemberment and disposal of Richard's remains. Yes. Absolutely. Now, has the Army admitted to that yet? Well, it's coming because they've admitted that Richard had no criminal record because that was backed up by the Interpol. They've admitted that Richard is a whistleblower. They've admitted that that chaptering needed to be wiped, that the field grade Article 15 needed to be wiped, that he needed to be promoted twice. I think, I think that they still don't get it, because to rescind means to fully restore, and then also for pain and suffering, get some restitution. They still don't get it. But they've absolutely, institutionally, they have admitted that he's a whistleblower, that he did not do anything wrong. And they've been slowly trying to erase what they did to him. But they took his life, and they protected those that organized the dismemberment, the transportation, and the disposal, and the fake narrative to cover it up. And, is that just as bad as the murder? Is that just as bad as the dismemberment? Is that just as bad as the disposal, some, different areas? Using $1 million plane for one of them? And the ownership would shock the socks off of you. And these operations, I will mention some of the names of that we got for the operations. So my grandson loves animals. He loves animals. And like most kids, but he really loves animals, okay? And I have lots of grandsons, but this one, he loves animals. And he bugged me about what is the fastest animal. And I said, the cheetah, right? Isn't the cheetah the fastest animal? Oh, yeah, Gigi. I think cheetah is the fastest animal. I said, but how fast does it go, Gigi? I said, well, let's look it up. Well, it's not the fastest animal, right? Um, there is a fish that it's the black marlin, right? Isn't it the black marlin, blue marlin, black marlin? I think it's the black marlin. That's really fast. It is super fast in the water. And so we were looking at that and we looked at videos, but that's not the fastest. The fastest is a peregrine falcon. A peregrine falcon is the fastest. And so that's the fastest animal in the world is the peregrine falcon. Well, these operations for Richard are black falcon and peregrine. Black falcon and peregrine. So I just gave you some top secret information. I'm very transparent. So they have different meanings. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. To clean up a big mess, to do it swiftly, super fast. Super fast. Yeah. So I don't know if I should have told you that, but I am. It needs to get out there. You have it now. You have it now, and you have the addresses 3905 Bliss Avenue, 3705 Bliss Avenue, 3400 Van Buren, the other one. I just, you know, and how this is all coming to be is we've been waiting for years to get the CPS complaints. Okay, we have all this information, and so we need to share it. And that's, when you're looking at an address and you see Thanea Katzen, and wait a minute, this is supposed to be about Belen Rocha, it gives you shivers. It gives you shivers because what you knew to be true is now very true. It's confirmed, right? And then you do a search more on it through the institutional database, and sure enough, these properties are connected. And it's even more than that. It's even more. I'm not at liberty to say, but I can tell you that it's even more than that. And when we can confirm it, we will absolutely share that information. But I will make it very clear, there's not a doubt in my mind that Richard was a victim of a code red. And a code red that was escalated to his murder because they couldn't face themselves and what they did. They had to cover up. It was part of the cover up of what they did to him, because now legally they had no grounds. And what were they going to do? Reestablish Richard? That July 9th date is very, very important. And so not only did they, it's kind of like they did not want to eat crow because that would mean they would lose their job. Well, now the only way I can see this being put right is for them to lose their life. Because they took my son's life. They took my son's life. And they used taxpayers' money to do it. Okay? They use taxpayers' money in extreme amounts to do it. The bribes, their wages, the facilities, Fort Bliss, the JAG, the DES, to, we're going to do this, turn off these cameras, destroy the surveillance footage, you know, give us a clear passage or whatever. Give us the tactical move storage unit. Whatever, however they did it all, these tunnels, yeah, they use taxpayers' money to do their dirty work. And so I think that the level of crime here is so huge. And they used the media. They used even our politicians. Yes. And so, yeah, they covered for convicted criminals. And they did this to an active duty soldier. And if they get away with this, just think how brazen they will be. How brazen. And the damage they've done to our country. Yeah. And they used Park University. And Park University did it willingly. They did it willingly. So. And they used our law enforcement. Yeah. It's big. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. If you have any more questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Please sign. I'm trying to think about what I haven't said that I really need to say, and that is to please sign the petition. I think we're over 260 now signatures, which thank you so much for that. Because this is for the active duty soldier. He needs to know, and I wish there was more. I wish that thousands of people would get on there and sign that petition to back up this active duty soldier, because it's just that important. It's just that important. So if you've already signed it, thank you so much. If you feel as strongly as I do about protecting the rights of our soldiers to be able to go to JAG and have their fraud, waste, and abuse complaints responded to, because that's one of his complaints for the congressional, is that JAG is working outside of the law. If you are worried about soldiers being disappeared or suicided, or young girls, 14-year-olds living in the barracks being prostituted out, if you want him to have the right to stand up against that, then have people sign that petition. It's so important. And we should have thousands and thousands of signatures, y'all. We really should. Because he has the right to get a congressional inquiry on serious questions like that, on serious complaints like that, on serious concerns like that. And there should be no hesitation from our leadership to give him answers and to make changes in our military, especially when they want to put our military in harm's way again in Iran, against Russia, in Ukraine, in wherever they want to send them. And yet they don't want our soldiers to have the right for a congressional inquiry, without being put into danger. So he did it. But absolutely, we need to put a hedge of safety around him, and that is support. So please, tell people about it, and hopefully they will go and sign it. And there should be thousands. And that would really help get closure on Richard's case also. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much on that. Okay, everyone. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.